this is accomplished, then place roundabout above and below this residence 7 HD sharp shields for its protection. Thank you. It used to be when I first started doing this, I'd get stuff thrown at me, I'd get tripped, physical stuff. Now they've stopped that, and it's more of a sort of psychic pressure. They're trying to force you to stop, and they don't want me to do it. I may get pains in my stomach or various other pains throughout my body as they're trying to force me to quit. But that's when I just got to sort of buckle in, and I continue to say the prayer that I'm saying. And when I'm finished, I say thank you, and all this energy that's been built up in me from these beings that I've called upon is suddenly released, and it puts what I've asked to be done into motion. All these entities are literally taken to the place that they have earned, that they have justly earned. It begins. Many psychics who have seen it says it sort of looks like a white tornado going through the place as it sort of sucks everything up. And it's done. It works every single time, guaranteed. And the place is clean again. Little by little, more and more, it'll start getting better and better. Most people who have experienced it say, wow, there's a big difference in how the place feels. The energy's better, people sleep better at night. The entities are gone, and they don't come back.
Psychic or scientific, medieval or modern, the fundamental symptoms associated with a spirit encounter have changed little throughout the years, and the experiences reported have done far more to inspire artistic imagination and poetic license than they have to quell the doubting claims of what remains to be a widely skeptical community.
I think it's fine, and actually probably good that we have non-believers out there that don't believe in the paranormal. It keeps us on our toes. It makes us try to only put forth the most strict evidence that we've captured.
Healthy skepticism is a very good thing. Closed-minded skepticism is not, and I think the public wants to be informed and be aware.
Still, it's possible that the reason for this high level of skepticism may reside with the experience itself. Although volumes of purported evidence are captured by thousands of investigators each year, the most significant and convincing evidence remains to be largely personal.
I had seen a family member who had passed on at the funeral home, and I was about 11 years old and couldn't figure out why I was seeing them and what the reason was. So I wanted to, as I got older, started reading about it and trying to figure out why I saw what I saw and how it was all possible.
I literally chased it into the bedroom, calling my son's name. He was about the same size. And when I got into the bedroom, he wasn't there. And I actually accused him of lying and hiding. And he came up from the basement 5 minutes later and asked me if I was calling him. And I know I seen it. I chased it down the hall. That was my defining moment.
I was 14. I was in the kitchen with my mother. It was in August, and it was a very muggy day. There was no air. And she used to hang the fly swatter on the back of the door, and it started doing this, back and forth, and then the utensils that were hanging over the stove started going back and forth, and I looked at my mom, and she looked at me. I said, "You saw that, right?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Cool."
About 2 years ago, I thought I heard sounds in the evening upon going to sleep. And I thought they were voices. I normally did the normal thing, and I checked outside. Wasn't my neighbors, no televisions were on, and I started to hear it on a fairly constant basis.
I was in a cemetery, and I was alone, which is something that we don't usually do, but I was young and I was alone, and as I was gathering my equipment at the end of the night, about 4:30 in the morning, I felt something grab my leg and sort of a thrust forward, a push down. I was pushed down and sort of just had a feeling come over me that I wasn't wanted there anymore.
For many, proof of a haunting goes far beyond the personal experiences of others. It requires tangible evidence which can be studied and validated through scientific methods.
Unfortunately, the scientific community has little interest in the study of paranormal phenomena and has rarely produced equipment with the sole intention of being used in psychical research. Therefore, those who research this field must rely on the data captured with only the equipment that is available.
EMF meters, motion sensors, video cameras, basic regular cameras, recorders, flashlights, and basically thermometers. That's pretty much a standard equipment case.
Every piece of equipment that is used in this field has not been created for this field. It's been created for other things.
If there was one machine that was going to point the ghost out to you and take its picture and have a conversation with it, well, then that's what piece of equipment we would bring. But there is no magical machine yet, and we don't really know what we're looking for and how to find it. So we're using what equipment is available for us in this day and age to try and find what's unknown.
There's times we can't cover every area at every time, and we can set up equipment that, say, a motion sensor could pick up movement if no one's in that area. So it just gives us a broader range and more things we can look at later.
Much of the equipment used in psychical research was designed to monitor atmospheric conditions such as radiation, humidity, and barometric pressure. The goal is to establish a trend in the readings which may help predict or confirm the presence of paranormal activity.
For me, when I see there's a meter getting a reading, that's significant. It's significant to where maybe I can get other evidence. I can try for EVPs, I can try for photos at that time. Usually anytime we see a motion on any of them, we're basically taking pictures right away, recording right away, because it could be telling us there's something there.
Well, our group believes that moon phases and barometric pressure actually can affect the activity on a case. So we do track that just to kind of be able to compile some data. When the moon phase is in this phase and the barometric pressure was higher, we got better results or whatever.
Changes in the data collected during an investigation not only serve to provide clues to the presence of paranormal activity, but monitoring even the most basic atmospheric conditions, such as temperature, can also serve to dictate the methods researchers use to investigate.
If it's too cold and we're investigating outside, we have to be careful not to breathe when we're taking pictures because breath can be mistaken as a mist. If it's too humid, there's extra moisture in the air, which could create false positive orbs in our pictures. So all of those things are really important when you're planning your investigation.
Equally important are the methods in which any activity is documented. Although devices such as the Geiger counter or EMF detector may provide claims to the presence of an entity, they will, however, do very little to capture tangible evidence of such an event. For this reason, researchers must rely on a more traditional method of documentation. Photography. Are these photos proof of an afterlife existence? Or are they merely the product of dirty developing solution and an overactive imagination? The answer may never be known, but what is known is that photos like these have been captured by investigators for over 100 years. They have been the subject of countless debates and in some cases controversy. But are they real? Although photographs of full-bodied apparitions are still relatively rare, the capture of what some believe to be actual photographic evidence of the paranormal has increased over the years with advances in photo technology. Though film cameras are still used and at times preferred by some researchers, the digital age has taken the field by storm.
Digital cameras, I think almost every paranormal investigator I know has one, and mainly that's because they're extremely easy to use. When you're on an investigation, you're taking pictures, you're able to see right away if you're picking something up.
Well, for me, I've used both, and the digital camera is actually easier. You can get more pictures. You don't have the high cost of film developing. You can just get a broader range, and you're not as limited on investigations.
Still, in spite of general preference and ease of use, the evidence produced by digital cameras leaves some to question their significance as source for truly convincing evidence. Digital photos are much easier to manipulate than those produced by film, and as a result are often disregarded by skeptics. Regardless of the preference, film or digital, the field of paranormal investigation has yet to produce an undisputed photo of paranormal activity.
Look at the drapes in this one.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's awesome.
Look at the other one. This anomaly, they said, shows up in just about everybody's pictures.
What am I looking at, though?
Look at the ring. Check out
I'm not
these
really
pictures.
sure what it is that I'm seeing, though. It's kind of...
We're getting amazing EMF in there.
I heard.
I don't know if you'd call it an ability or a sense that I have, but I can look at a photograph or a piece of film and I can say, no, that's not something paranormal. That's just something that just happened.
One of the most common photographic anomalies captured is a phenomenon known as orbs, strange circular translucent objects which can appear randomly in photos taken at just about any location and are typically unseen by the naked eye. Every day, hundreds of pictures like these are taken all over the world, and not just by investigators, but by people from all walks of life. Some believe this strange phenomenon is conclusive proof that we are surrounded by paranormal energy, and these translucent orbs represent a passing life force that exists in a world beyond death. But others have their own opinion.
I believe that orbs are usually nothing. People say, well, they interact with us. We have to remember that insects will interact with us. They'll go toward us, they'll go away from us. And so will dust and moisture if there's static electricity. So until orbs spell out my name or something, I'm going to continue to be underwhelmed by that.
When you see orbs in photos and on video, it's usually, in most cases, nothing more than dust or an insect. We've actually been able to recreate that in a laboratory. We've photographed spinning dust and dust in the air, and when it spins, it looks exactly like an orb. A true energy orb will emit its own light, will have its own pattern. It won't follow the wind or the direction of a breeze.
A true orb is always perfectly round, is always somewhat transparent, and is going to show up in a picture. You may have 2 or 3 in one picture, but they're going to be scattered. If you're looking at a picture that contains dust or rain or snow or some other particle in the air, it may not be round. It may be solid. And you'll see them overlapping, some further away, some closer. They'll be much more dense in the picture than a true orb is.
Most groups have their own opinions on the validity of orbs as evidence, and very often will avoid relying on one single piece of evidence as proof of a haunting.
We tend to try and use evidence that has other evidence to back it up. For orbs, for instance, we generally, if we have just a single orb or even a lot of orbs, which is pretty indicative of dust. But if we just have one orb and that's the only thing in a picture and there's the only occurrence at that time, we probably will end up debunking it. We're not really passing it off as solid evidence. We like to be able to say, not only was there an orb in the picture at this time, but there was a personal experience taking place. There was EMF fluctuation. We captured an EVP in the room at the relative same time as the orb. In other words,